Welcome to the Kindness Project, the podcast designed to share stories of kindness and share how kindness can make positive change in our world, one small act at a time.
On this episode of the Kindness Project, we talk about pronunciation, revision Jukebox, and the second part of the interview with Saf Nazeer from Helpful Peeps.
Welcome to this episode. What episode is it?
30.
You said 74 earlier on.
34.
This episode of the Kindness Project, I'm joined by a girl who can mispronounce anything. It's Charlotte Dames.
And I'm joined by the trivia man himself, it's Chris Dames.
Oh, I love a bit of trivia. But should we just quickly go through the things that that we disagree on how to pronounce? Chernobyl.
Chernobyl!
It's not Chernobyl, it's Chernobyl. What are the other things? Tomato?
Tomato.
Charlotte too hearty?
Charlotte's fine.
But there are certain things that you say, and I can't. The problem is now I can't think of any apart from the word Chernobyl.
Chernobyl.
Right, you changed it there because you went originally for Chernobyl, and now you're changing it to Chernobyl. The fact is, you keep on changing the way that you think it's pronounced. So I don't know what way it's pronounced, and you've given me 47 different alternatives.
Maybe that was the trap.
I think it's called Chernobyl Bubbly.
I love those ice creams.
Yeah, you don't want to have a Chernobyl Bubbly though. You don't want a Knobbly Bubbly from Chernobyl because they are hot stuff. And when you put a Geiger counter against an ice cream and it starts going off the scales, that's probably not the best move in the world.
No, it's not.
So how's your week gone?
Not bad, not bad.
What have you been up to?
Not much.
Oh, that was a good conversation, wasn't it? You've been off for the summer holes, haven't you?
Yes.
Have you...
Write revision cards and exam questions.
Oh yeah, have you told the podcast listeners about your idea?
What?
The song one.
Oh, yes. The revision Jukebox.
Go on, tell us about it.
Okay, so I find revising using stuff like mind maps really difficult. But I can easily remember song lyrics. It's a weird thing, I don't know how it works. Anyway, me and Dad played this game where we changed the lyrics of pop songs to be educational, and I was like, this is fun, I'm good at this. And I just started writing songs, so now I've got a song based on the song Thriller about the Cuban Missile Crisis.
And are you writing any more? Can you tell us about any more?
I have a general science one.
Yeah.
Based on the song Royals.
Okay, by Lord, yeah.
Yes.
Any others?
That's it, it's all working so far, I just need some more inspiration.
But you've got your own YouTube channel?
Yeah, I say I haven't got anything on there yet, no.
Okay, well, I'm sure it will come, Can you let our listeners know exactly where they can get in touch with us?
The Twitter is Ola Kindness.
Holla?
Ola.
See, this is a word that you consistently mispronounce. The word holla.
No.
H, it's got a H.
Yes, I know I have a
As in Chernobyl's got a ch and a no.
You're confusing me now. Okay. What's the Facebook?
Chernobyl Bubbly. It's at www.facebook.com/wouldyoulikeachernobylibubbly.com. No, it's www.facebook.com/holla HOLA kindness. And people can get in touch with us in all sorts of different ways. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, MySpace, Napster, Ask Jeeves, Google+, anything you want. You can send us a letter, you can send us a telegraph, you can do whatever you want to get in touch with us. So would I. I've never ever received a telegraph. Do you reckon I'll get to 100? I might get a telegram from the Queen. I might not. Okay, so would you like this week's question of the podcast? This week's question of the podcast is, what's the most childish thing you still do?
Watch kids shows.
Is it?
Yeah.
Watch cartoons?
Yeah.
What's your favourite, is it what kids show is the youngest kids show you watch? Is it? I bet it's My Little Pony, isn't it?
I don't watch that.
What do you watch now?
Steven Universe.
Is that it's not a young kids show though, is it?
It's like, I don't know what kind of kids show it is, but it's like really light-hearted and friendly. It's just all happy and cheerful, and it's on Cartoon Network, and then it got like really deep, and there's like loads of stuff about relationships tucked in there,
Okay.
and like there's loads of underlying messages about stuff like homophobia and
Yeah, but it's a more young adult 2 kids show.
Yeah.
You don't watch any young kid shows anymore, do you?
Still watch Horrible Histories.
Horrible History. No, but Horrible Histories is one of the funny. I'd watch, even if I didn't have kids, I'd watch Horrible Histories. I think Horrible Histories is really, really good.
Laugh.
It's a laugh. Horrible Histories is a bit of a laugh. I would still watch some of the old shows from my childhood.
Danger Mouse.
Danger Mouse is good. Rhubarb and Custard, Trapdoor, Fraggle Rock. Love them, absolutely love them. So, listeners, we'd like to know from you this week, what is the thing that you do that's really childish but you still love to do?
Roly-polies.
Roly-polies. Oh, yeah. What, eating or...
No, doing roly-polies.
Yeah, but eating roly-polies is quite good. I mean, I don't know if there's a childish thing to do, but it's quite good. But yeah, I like the idea of doing roly-polies. Where do you do roly-polies?
On the field, just anywhere.
Just carry on doing the roly-poly. Cool. Let's get on with Kindness News.
Yeah.
So, we're here again for another...
Kindness News.
What edition?
Amputee.
Okay.
Just picked a word from the top.
Okay, cool. And what's this story about?
Quadruple amputee hitchhiking across Canada.
Are you sure it's Canada? Because we did try this before and you did say China. Is it Canada or China?
It's Canada.
Canada, definitely Canada. Kazakhstan? Colombia? Oh no, it's Canada, go on. So this amputee hitchhiked through...
Oh, it's another Chris.
Oh, is it Chris? Look, Chris, we know Chris is a good people. What's his surname?
Koch.
Chris Koch. Oh, I thought Dames, Chris Dames was an okay name. And then a couple of weeks ago on Kindness News, we had Chrissy Lopez.
Yeah.
And now we've got Chrissy Koch. And I'm getting name envy, Charlotte. I want Lopez or Koch.
You're allowed to legally change it for a small amount.
What's your mum going to say if I turn around and go, by the way, I know everybody else in my family is called Dames, but please call me Chrissy Lopez, and I've got a double-barrelled surname now, Chrissy Lopez Koch. What's she going to say? Probably. Okay, so what's Chrissy Koch been up to?
He jokes about the difficulty of hitchhiking with no thumbs, but that hasn't stopped Chris Koch in his cross-Canada journey. In fact, not much has stopped this remarkable man, a quadruple amputee who is travelling the country on the kindness of strangers.
Can I just say something about that? I think, do you remember when we interviewed Hans from Be My Eyes, the guy who built the app that helps people do that? He's got this line in his TED Talk, and I'll put it on the show notes, where he turns around and goes, I am blind. Well, actually, I'm sort of very visually impaired, so there might be 200 of you in this room, but I can only see 3 of you. And then he just waves at 3 people and says hello, which I thought was a hilarious self-referential joke. Anyway, Chris Koch, tell it to me about Chris. No thumbs.
Koch started his journey in Calgary 10 days ago and hopes to end up in Newfoundland, well, when he gets there. Koch's message is a powerful one, to step out of your comfort zone and live life to the fullest.
Christ, that is stepping out your comfort zone, isn't it?
And Chris Koch is seriously taking his own advice for this adventure. You can't help but do a double take when you see Chris Koch skateboarding down the sidewalk.
Does it say Chris Koch every single time? He's just got a cool name, Chris Koch.
He's used to the attention and used to questions including how he can type on his cell phone with no hands and how he lost his arms and legs. Koch was born that way.
Okay.
My grandma's reaction to hearing I was born without arms and legs, Koch jokes, was to say that my father never finished anything he started.
You know what? That tells me 2 things, right? Number one, I love people that I mean, Chris Koch got an awesome name, but I love people who prove that anything is possible, right? So this guy, he's got every excuse in the world to turn around and go, you know what? This is mental, hitchhiking across a country as big as Canada, but I'm going to do it anyway because I think life should be an adventure. So I love that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's number one. Number two, having a sense of humour is so important. And actually,
especially a self-deprecating one.
Definitely. Well, it's like Britain's Got Talent when they had Lost Voice guy on. I mean, I thought he was amazing. Just like sort of that sort of self-deprecating humour. As long as it don't go into like something that's negative, as long as you keep it pretty positive. And obviously, Chris Koch isn't seeing that as I've said Chris Koch again, haven't I? I might say Chris Koch quite a lot in this segment.
Chris or Koch or...
Kochi. I wonder what his nickname is. Yeah. So he likes a joke, does Chris, by the sounds of it?
Yes. If a guy without arms and legs can work on a farm, he says, can travel the world, can snowboard, surf, hitchhike across Canada, which is ironic because I don't have thumbs, but I can do those things. Anybody is capable of it.
Agreed.
So add to that now, hitchhiking across Canada, relying on the kindness of strangers, many of whom offer him meals, places to stay and money, which he quickly explains are all go to the war amps. Cornwall resident Denise Frey and her son saw Chris's post on Facebook about his cross-Canada travels and offered to drive him to Montreal today. Frey was a police officer with York Regional Police and was injured on the job in a collision 9 years ago. She understands all too well how difficult it is to overcome obstacles. It's hard when you go from a career like that to living with such chronic pain with a brain injury. It changes your life, and with him, it's just amazing.
Awesome. Love it. So well done, Chris Koch. We love your story we love your name, and good luck with your Canada-wide travels. It sounds like an awesome adventure. So this week, Charlotte, we're concluding our interview with Saf from Helpful Peeps. And if you don't remember from last week, or if you haven't listened to last week yet, have you listened to last week's interview?
No, I'm going to wait and listen to the full interview.
Are you going to wait and listen to every single interview we've ever done? We're going to continue to talk to Saf about the Helpful Peeps platform. It's a platform for connecting kind people to kind people, what it does, and we asked him some questions in the podcast. Would you like to listen?
Yeah.
So you must collect loads of stories about how Helpful Peeps has connected people, helped people, done great stuff. What's your favourite story, or if you've got time too?
Yes, this is tricky because we have thousands, if not tens of thousands of help that happens on the platform.
Yeah.
We haven't done the greatest job, so our focus has been on efficiently connecting the parties. So like when you post a request, we've been using our time and energy to ensure that the most appropriate people near you that are likely to help see your request, and that you get a response in as short a time frame as possible. So that's what we've been really focused on, which means that we have all of these stories, but we haven't, that's the next phase, is where we collate all of these stories. So just to give you like a couple of broad categories, a lot of them are around small tasks, whether it's language learning, somebody needs a running buddy, right? Things of that nature. With your neighbours. We have charities using the platform for volunteers.
Yeah.
And then we have, broadly speaking, a third category where people post selfless requests, where they're trying to do something for somebody else or for the broader community. It could be, somebody organising a litter pick, or somebody, doing something like that. Somebody wanting to help the homeless in their locality.
Yeah.
And that gets so much traction because it's really inspiring. Then you get 20 people that say, hey, we can help you with that.
Yeah.
On a personal note, it's kind of a funny, slightly embarrassing story, is that I actually learned to ride a bicycle for the first time in my life at about age 32.
Okay.
On Helpful Peeps.
Oh, cool.
It's quite an embarrassing thing to do, especially at that age.
Yeah.
But to random kind folks met me at a park with a bike and a helmet, and so the amount of things that happen on Helpful Peeps, we've had thousands, tens of thousands of helps, ranging from really small, quote-unquote, mundane bits of helps to quite major, inspiring things. We know a guy who broke a Guinness World Record for charity for ironing for something like 100 plus consecutive hours.
Okay.
And he got a whole bunch of things from the venue to press to volunteers to all the clothes to iron through Helpful Peeps. And this was very, very early on as well.
Yeah.
It's down to people how they use it, but it could be used for something.
Yeah, and that's really interesting. What made you want to learn to ride a bike after not doing it for years?
Yeah, so for the longest time, I convinced myself that I didn't need to ride a bike. I was too old. Had passed the window, but I was invited to one of my mates' stag do in the Lake District. And I got the itinerary, and one of the activities was mountain biking.
Gotcha.
And I was like, okay, I've got 3 weeks, and I had to, so that's what pushed me to do it.
Oh, cool. Well, it sounds good. It sounds good. And did you start with stabilizers, or did you just go like sort of full throttle?
Yeah, full throttle.
Cool.
But, I think it was easier than I thought.
Yeah.
But it was still tricky, lots of falls.
Yeah. So I know you mentioned earlier about the soft skills that people have got that are really useful on Helpful Peeps. I'm glad to hear that, because I've got no practical skills at all. I mean, I talk and think for a living, and frankly, sometimes I look in the mirror and go, I can't believe people are paying me for this. But certainly, it's interesting when you sort of look at the things that you can help with. And I'd imagine your bike riding thing was like just to help you with confidence as well as the practical skill of riding a bike. Be there and support me with it.
Absolutely. And just, having the physical bike, because I didn't own one.
Yeah.
A bit of morale and a bit of, a few helpful tips.
Yeah.
But even, we have so many things where people help each other, whether it's a gym buddy or a running buddy or a walking buddy.
Yeah.
Or, somebody cat sitting or watering plants or, things like that,
Yeah.
Listening.
Yeah.
So there's so many things that we can do, but we tend to be really self-critical of ourselves, as you've been when you're looking in the mirror.
Yeah.
But also, I think what we do is we tend to pigeonhole ourselves into just our profession, right?
Yeah, gotcha.
We are not the job that we do.
Agreed.
So that's our specialism and our skill, and that's what we get paid for, and that's what pays the bills. But we have a dozen other skills, if not more, that we have, and we could put that to good use in our local community. And often it's a pleasure. Like if it's something that you enjoy doing, it's not a chore at all.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, this definition of your entire existence as a job seems mad to me. It's like you are so much more than what you spend 8 hours a day doing. And, you've got you're a dad, you're a business owner, you're a person, you're funny, there's all these sort of things that you can do to help. But what I'm interested in is what gets asked for the most on the platform.
So when we started, we thought it would be things like DIY, right? Where people needed help with a task.
Yeah.
But what we learned over time is that the single most popular request, broadly speaking, is friendship and meeting people locally. So it's everything from, hey, I'm a new mom, looking to meet other like-minded people, to, hey, I'm new to the area, looking to meet people to go for coffee, or, hey, I'd like to learn a new instrument, or I'd like a running buddy. But ultimately, it's not just about the task at hand. It's also about meeting people locally and having these real-world interactions. Because again, we can argue that more and more people are becoming more isolated.
Yeah.
Loneliness is a thing. It's not limited to the elderly anymore.
So
as we become more insular and as that circle that we talked about gets smaller, we provide people with a mechanism where they can actually interact and meet people locally, which doesn't have a dating component.
Yeah, gotcha.
That seems to be relatively easy. There's lots of apps and things of that nature, but to meet people locally to make friends, weirdly seems to be much harder.
Yeah.
And it's not something that we set out to address, but just as a byproduct of what we've done, there's a lot of that happening on the platform, which is always it's fantastic to see.
So this is about community. I mean, you mentioned the word community in terms of an online platform, but just taking those online communities offline and saying, let's meet for a beer or a walk in the park, or to do something in real life instead of just being online. Sounds great.
We made a strategic call to do that about a year ago, where historically Helpful Peeps, you could create a post and make it either an online post or an offline post.
Okay.
So if you needed, translation help, let's say somebody in Beijing technically could see your post, maybe you could do it via Skype or via email. But we felt that those interactions aren't going to be long lasting.
Yeah.
Right. So we wanted to bring the focus to local. It's actually harder to do the local bit, but we felt it was worthwhile to do it because, and so we basically killed the online bit, and now your feed is basically tailored to your location.
Yeah.
And you can widen and narrow the range.
Geographical range, right? Okay.
But fundamentally, it's about connecting with people locally. Even if you weren't to physically meet up and you can help over the phone or whatever, we still want people to connect locally because that creates further opportunities for you guys to interact.
Love it.
Reciprocate and things of that nature.
Love it. And in terms of the geography of the platform, where are your hotspots? Where are the people that connect the most?
Yeah. So we have focused solely on the UK.
Okay.
So our active focus, and Bristol is where we started. So Bristol is still our most active community. But at the moment, behind Bristol, we've got Brighton and London, we've got Manchester, we've got Edinburgh, we've got about 15 plus cities now with very, very active communities.
Okay.
And then, we're around 175,000 members.
Okay.
And we actually have users in about 60 or 70 different countries as well.
Okay.
But that's just a byproduct of social media and the internet.
Yeah.
We might have 3 people in South Africa, but they're not super active.
Yeah.
There's not much they can do to help each other. But definitely UK focused for now, with a view to go global in the future. But hotspots, I would say Bristol, Brighton, London, Manchester. We've been targeting kind of the cities because you have population density. And
it's not a question that I had in mind, but so I'm a Londoner, as you can probably tell from the accent, and I think London's a great city. But I've heard so many good things about Bristol. What makes Bristol an awesome place to be?
It really, really is an awesome place to be. I think it's got a real community feel.
Okay.
It really does. When we launched Helpful Peeps, it just so happened to be that I was in Bristol and we launched it here. But it turned out to be the perfect place for us to pilot it because we had a really great reception with its press and the community. And also it's got everything. It's got I'm in London quite often. It's an hour and 40, right?
Yeah, so the links are good. Yeah,
and it's got great restaurants and bars, and it's got a great diversity. It's got good culture.
Yeah,
it's small enough and yet has everything it needs.
Yeah,
and a real kind of hub for startup and creatives and things of that nature as well. Lately, I think we're kind of like second or third in the country according to a few studies.
Okay,
constantly being voted the best place or the best city to live in. So I'm a big fan. I've been here 15 years and I've stayed put.
Sounds great. So I want to ask you a little bit more about Helpful Peeps, but we do something on the Kindness Project which every week we ask our community, we ask our audience, we have a question of the podcast, which typically isn't kindness related. So I'm gonna throw. This is like a quick fire round for the interviewees. So let me throw some of these at you. What's the best use of an egg?
What's the best use of an egg?
Yeah.
Food.
Is it omelette, boiled,
Okay.
poached,
Double eggs.
scrambled. Oh, okay, scrambled. That's pretty good. What country? You said you were pretty well travelled. What country that you haven't been to is on the top of your must-visit list?
Cuba.
See, Cuba's on mine as well. Cuba, and actually, I think that over the next few years, Cuba might change quite a lot, right? So,
It's an urgent one.
yeah. Sooner rather than later. What's the most inspiring movie ever?
Tough. I'm going to go with Shawshank Redemption
Oh, great film.
for kind of tenacity and persistence.
Yeah, great film. I love that film. If you became supreme ruler of the world, what's the first rule you'd put in place?
Universal basic income.
See, I like that idea. I think a lot of the best ideas are sort of the Scandinavian countries are either thinking about or thinking about doing, right? You know, sort of highly taxed countries, but certainly interested in the way they do things. If you could only sing one song perfectly, which song would you choose?
I can't sing.
Me neither. We're in the same boat on that one, Saf.
One song perfectly, what would it be? I don't know, maybe like a complicated rap song that's really fast. But
Yeah.
I can't think of one.
Yeah, I'd you know what I'd pick if I was going down that road. I can't remember the name of it now. Oh, it's lost me. I'll come back to it. I even struggle answering my own questions. It's weird when we ask these on the podcast because the ones that get the best response tend to be the most trivial. So let me give you one of the podcast's most answered questions. What's your favourite biscuit?
Right. See, that's the thing, I'm not really big on biscuits.
You're not a biscuit fan?
Chocolate chip cookie, maybe?
Sounds good.
Oreos?
Yeah, Oreos are good. And what's your favourite piece of trivia ever?
Probably.
That's the one that always flummoxes guests. I'll let you come back to that one. And I'm going to move on to the most contentious and controversial question we've ever asked on the podcast.
Right.
Who's the best Muppet?
Who's the best Muppet? Is
Yeah.
it from...
Yeah. Sesame Street or The Muppet Show or...
Right. Who's the best?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with the yellow bird.
Big Bird. Oh, right. Interesting choice. That's a good one. Okay, Saf, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. And learning about the work you're doing sounds great. So certainly it goes from steps to steps. So what is next for Helpful Peeps? What's the future intentions for the platform?
Yeah, so our goal is currently, as a milestone, we want to get to 1 million members.
Okay. What are you on at the minute?
At about 175,000.
Okay.
So we get to 1 million members across the UK.
Yep.
We're going to be in every major city.
Okay.
We're working towards that at the moment. And we want it to become a bit of a household name. People, just as anybody in business is aware of LinkedIn and so on, we want people to be familiar with Helpful Peeps. But long term, really, the vision is for us to become almost the Amazon for help.
Yeah.
I.e. that we can execute help on demand locally in an Uber-esque fashion. So your car breaks down, you don't have accident cover, you post a request for Helpful Peeps, 17 people within a kilometer's radius gets notified, 4 of them offer to come and jumpstart your car.
Gotcha.
Right? And the whole thing happens, and within 15 minutes they're there, and now guess what? It's actually more efficient than having a cover. And this across every helpful scenario imaginable. And we can only achieve this with scale and liquidity.
Yeah.
But we want to make being kind and helpful cool. And we want people to collect karma points. And we want MPs to say that their constituents have been the most helpful. And we have a grand vision. But basically, the Amazon for help is the simplest way to describe it.
Love it. There's a guy we interviewed for the podcast, actually. Have you heard of the app Be My Eyes?
I have. I met it.
Yeah, well, I haven't met him yet. He's again talking about Scandinavians. He is a cool Scandinavian, right?
Yeah.
But certainly that use of technology to support partially sighted people, I loved that idea.
There's so much overlap between what we're doing.
Yeah.
We ended up in Brussels on a panel together.
Okay.
It's fantastic to meet him, and we love what he does. So yeah, very, very similar goals, I think.
Yeah. So was that at a conference, or was that?
Yeah, it was an event. It was the digital festival, something like that.
Okay.
I think it was last year in Brussels.
Who else was on the panel?
I think it was. I'm trying to remember now. I think it was just us from like a startup perspective.
Yeah.
We may have had like legislators and policymakers,
Okay.
like a moderator and things like that.
Yeah, cool.
But we kind of represented kind of the,
Entrepreneurial, yeah.
using tech to bring, make an impact in communities, something like that.
Yeah, love it. Absolutely love it. It was interesting because when I spoke to him, he did tell me that he went along to the sort of coding day as a non-coder, and I think it was €50 to get in or something like that. But they were doing free beer, so he thought he could make his money back anyway, which really made me chuckle. So how can people find out a bit more about Helpful Peeps?
So the easiest place would be helpfulpeeps.com.
Yep.
But we have an iOS app on the App Store and a Android app on the Play Store as well.
Okay.
We're also on all of the social medias at Helpful Peeps. Facebook is probably our most active kind of community.
Okay.
But yeah, helpfulpeeps.com, and you can sign up and get involved locally.
Awesome, love it. Thank you so much for your time today, Saf. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to speaking to you soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris, for having me.
So that was the second part of the interview with Saf.
Yeah, it was.
It was. Have you listened to it?
Not yet.
I would do. It's really good.
Who's the end?
Why did you go up to the mic like you were going to give it a kiss? Because you went like that. You tipped your head and then went, "'Tis the end." It is the end.
Tis the end.
It's the end of another podcast.
But we all know the end is not the end. I'd like you to do it this time.
What do I get to do the jingle? Last week's question of the week. This week.
It's got less oomph in it now.
Well, no, it hasn't. Because you do last week's question of the week, this week, last week, this week, last week. You make it too long. All it is, let's make it simple. Last week's question of the week, this week. Something like that. I don't know. What do you think? Are we having that or not? And we had when we thought about this question, we didn't expect to get the answers we got, and there was a gender divide, right?
Of course there were.
So the women the question was, if you woke up as a member of the opposite sex but knew that you were going to go back to the original gender in a month, what would you definitely have to do? Okay. Now the women were sensible. Okay. The women were. I'm going to just get stuff done that the men are useless at. So Karina Murray said all his paperwork. Sarah Drackard said she'd do all the boys' jobs around the house. Roberta White said, I'd do what men do. Absolutely nothing. But literally, and we had a really good response on Twitter as well. Fiona, I think it was on Twitter. I'm just going to log into my Twitter now and check. Fiona turned around and went, what I'd do is, hold on, 2 seconds, mow the lawn. So every answer from a woman was sensible, practical, and like
a bit gender stereotypical.
A bit gender stereotypical, but so Bev Stove said I'd sit around waiting for somebody to cook my dinner. Bit harsh, but probably fair. So the women's answers were sensible. The men's answers Words are sensible.
See, I follow him on Facebook, so I know what's coming.
So, the first answer we had was from friend of the show, Victor Sachs, who just used 2 words. If he was a woman, for a month, all he'd do is swing 'em. That's all he'd do, Victor. He should swing 'em.
I'm not
Simple.
going to clarify what he's going to swing.
Mikey Fitzgerald had a good one. He'd say, find out the real question every man wants to know. Are tubicles real or made up? Now, I've got to be honest, I didn't know what a tubicle was.
Oh, well, you had to Urban Dictionary.
We had to Urban Dictionary, and apparently it's a toilet cubicle with 2 toilets in.
For 2 people.
Now, I don't know whether that's a real thing or not. I don't know. I asked Cassie, I asked my wife, we talked about it, and we've never been to, you've never been to a place with a tubicle, have you?
I've never been in a tubicle, but Mum was saying that sometimes women will go in one cubicle together if there's too long a line.
Okay. But is there 2 toilets in that cubicle?
No, just one.
Okay, so I don't know. John Cook said, I'd probably just end up playing with my boobs. And then he added, just like the same as now, because I do that already. And Nigel Mathers, The Weird World. I mean, Nigel Mathers could have his own part of this podcast, because every time he answers a question of the podcast, he just comes up with this, like, he's got this mad imaginative brain that just comes up with awesome stuff. Weird, but awesome. Nigel said, I would get pregnant, then turn back into a man a month later and see how things went for the following 9 months. I'm assuming not well, but if it turns out that the pregnancy goes the full term, I would request a cesarean, otherwise things could get pretty painful. I think you're right, Nigel, this is weird, but I love it. Cassie then put, I think this is the best idea so far. Would love to read a review of your experience after delivery. And apparently Nigel did do a birth plan with when his son was born. His wife would have written it, but she was a bit busy at the time. I mean, that is just incredible. So, I wasn't expecting those answers when I got those questions.
I'm going to get pregnant.
I wasn't expecting the gender split. I should have expected the gender split from sensible, pragmatic advice from the women and just ridiculousness from the men. I should have expected that.
Should have seen it coming.
But I didn't.
The thing I said was I'd check my pants. I was just like, I'm the opposite sex. Wait, give me a sec. Oh, yeah, definitely the opposite sex. Oh, flat chest, obviously the opposite sex.
You did tell us about that last week, but thanks for reiterating that.
It's funny.
But your one's in between the boys and the girls, so like checking your pants is quite practical, but also quite funny. So yeah.
Check down my top. Oh,
so yeah, they were the answer to the question of the podcast, and I just want to share a little. Listeners, because I know he does listen to the podcast every now and again. Listener's story of kindness. He gave me a compliment. Martin McNamara from he's on Twitter. I don't know why I heard them that much. He's on Twitter. Martin McNamara. He's on Last Stand, but at Martin Namara, Martin_Namara on Twitter, said, I love the way that Chris writes. I wish I had that skill set. So that's a very nice compliment from Martin. He obviously doesn't heard the way I speak because he hasn't heard this podcast. But hopefully he feels the same way. So thanks, Martin. I really appreciate the compliment. It's really nice of you to say so. And on that note,
we are truly finished.
Goodbye.
Bye.